The group chat notification came through at 7:42 on a Tuesday morning, right in the middle of my first cup of coffee. My sister's name lit up the screen. I opened it expecting dinner logistics, what time to arrive, whether to bring wine, if the venue was business casual or dressy. Instead, I read this. Hey, so, about the anniversary dinner Saturday. I know this is last minute, but honestly, it would just be easier if you didn't come. David makes things weird, and you always look kind of exhausted in photos, and we're doing a professional shoot after dinner, and Mom really wants them to come out beautiful. It's not personal, just skip this one. I stared at it. Then my mother sent a heart emoji. My father sent a thumbs up. Nobody typed a single word in my defense. I set the phone face down on my desk. In front of me was a structural load analysis for a 30-story mixed-use tower going up in Denver's Lodo district. The kind of calculation where one misplaced decimal ripples through everything. I stared at the numbers. I breathed. Then I picked the phone back up and typed 2 words. Got it. I put the phone in my drawer and went back to work. My name is Felicity. I'm 31 years old. I'm a named partner and senior structural engineer at Meridian Group, one of the top civil and structural engineering firms in the Rocky Mountain region. I manage a team of 24 engineers and sit on the board that reviews and approves project contracts. From the outside, my life looks like it assembled itself neatly. From the inside, it was built piece by piece in direct opposition to a family that spent most of my childhood treating me like the furniture. To understand why 2 words was all I had left, you have to understand where I came from. My sister, Cassidy, is 4 years younger than me, and has been the center of the family solar system since the day she was born. She is beautiful in the effortless way that gets you out of traffic tickets, and she has always known it. Growing up, when Cassidy wanted something, a dress, a car, a second chance after getting caught sneaking out, she got it. When she cried, rooms reorganized themselves around her tears. When I won the Colorado State Mathematics Olympiad in 9th grade, I came home to find my parents at the kitchen table, planning her middle school graduation party. I held up the certificate. My mother glanced at it over her shoulder and said, "That's great, honey. Can you set the table? We're expecting company." I set the table. I always set the table. They never understood what I did for a living. To them, engineering was something men in hard hats did on construction sites. When I made partner at 30, I told them over dinner. My father nodded like I'd announced a minor promotion at a data entry job. My mother said, "Oh, that's wonderful. Did you know Cassidy just hit 10,000 Instagram followers?" My sister beamed across the table. I smiled and passed the rolls. What none of them knew, what nobody in my family knew, was the building. 4 years ago, when I was 27, my parents came to me in a quiet panic. For 15 years, they had run a small catering business out of a rented commercial kitchen in a building on Larimer Street. The building had sold, and the new owners were hiking the rent from $900 a month to $3,200. My parents couldn't absorb the difference. The catering business was their retirement. They'd built it together, one anniversary cake and one corporate lunch platter at a time. I couldn't let it go under. But I also couldn't tell them what I was going to do, because I had watched my entire life what happened when my family knew I had money. Every birthday became a soft loan request. Every holiday dinner came with a side dish of "we've been having a rough stretch lately." So I did something quiet. Through an LLC I'd set up for real estate investment, Ridgeline Holdings. I purchased that building on Larimer Street, $1.2 million. I engaged a property management company to administer it and set my parents' new lease at $900 a month, same as before. I told them the new owner was a private investor who wanted to support local small businesses, and that he was flexible as long as the kitchen was well maintained. My parents signed without question. They were relieved. They were grateful to a stranger they would never meet. For 4 years, I paid the property taxes. I replaced the hot water heater when it failed last February. I covered the HVAC repair the previous winter. I was their landlord and their benefactor, and the reason their business was still standing. And every Christmas, every Easter, every birthday dinner, I sat at that same table as the daughter who looked exhausted in photos, while they celebrated Cassidy's follower count and her husband Fletcher's big plans. Fletcher. My sister married him 14 months ago in a ceremony my parents largely funded. From the night Cassidy first brought him home, something in my gut had never settled. He was charming in the specific way of someone performing charm rather than possessing it. Answers always slightly too smooth. Eye contact calibrated just a beat too precisely. Warmth that clicked on and off like a light switch. He talked about money and deals and opportunities the way people talk about things they've read about, but never actually held. He drove a new Range Rover that I later learned was leased in my sister's name. He called me the brain every time we saw each other, in the tone of someone who finds intellectual people vaguely pitiable. He'd clap me on the shoulder and laugh, and I'd smile back and say nothing. I was good at saying nothing. I'd had 31 years of practice. Until that Tuesday morning text. Before I tell you how everything shifted, like and subscribe. Drop a comment. Where are you watching from? The following Saturday, I was in my office at Meridian Group, on the 14th floor overlooking the city, when my assistant Marcy's voice came through the intercom. Felicity, I'm sorry to disturb you. There are 2 people in the lobby. They're asking to speak with whoever handles the Larimer Street property. They say it's a lease matter. They walked in without an appointment. I went still. Ridgeline Holdings ran everything through a separate management company. Nobody should have connected it to Meridian. What do they look like? Marcy's voice went careful. A young woman in a floral dress and a man in a gray blazer. They gave their names as Cassidy and Fletcher Marsh. The room held its breath. Send them up, I said. Are you sure? I can have security explain that we don't handle. Send them up, Marcy. I want to handle this myself. I stood, straightened my jacket, walked to the window. The city spread out below me. Glass and steel, early summer light on the Rockies in the distance. I took 3 slow breaths. Then I sat back down at my desk, folded my hands on the surface and waited. I heard them before I saw them. Cassidy's voice moving down the hallway, bright and performative, telling Fletcher that this building is actually really nice. We should find something like this for our office someday. Fletcher's low murmur in reply. Through the glass wall, I watched them walk the hall, reading nameplates. Senior Project Manager. Director of Civil Engineering. They reached the end of the hall, where the corner office sat behind double glass panels. Fletcher stopped. The nameplate read, Felicity Hargrove, named partner, Senior Structural Engineer. He read it once. He read it again. I watched his face move through 3 expressions in about 2 seconds. Cassidy bumped into his shoulder. Then she saw it too. I pressed the button under my desk. The glass doors slid open with a soft sound. Come in, I said. They came in slowly. Cassidy looked around the office, the floor-to-ceiling windows, the architectural scale models on the shelving unit, the framed state engineering licenses on the wall, with the expression of someone recalibrating the entire blueprint of someone she thought she knew. Fletcher looked at me. Something behind his eyes did not panic, it calculated. What is this? Cassidy asked. My office. You're a partner here? I have been for 2 years. I looked at Fletcher. You said you had a lease matter. He recovered quickly. He pulled a folder from under his arm and set it on my desk with the deliberate ease of a man who had rehearsed this. Right. So we've been thinking about expanding the catering operation. Take it regional. Turn it into a real brand. But the kitchen on Larimer is too small. There's an adjoining commercial unit in the same building that's sitting empty, and we want to knock through, combine the spaces, and we need the building owner to sign off on the renovation and restructure the lease terms. I looked at the folder, then I looked at my sister. How much? I said. Fletcher leaned in. The renovation runs about $80,000. We'd need the owner to front it and collect it back through a rent credit over 5 years. We're also pursuing an SBA loan, about $200,000 for equipment and marketing, and we need a cosigner with established credit and assets. He smiled at me like we were old friends. Family helps family. 2 days ago, my family told me not to come to a party because I photographed tired. I'm not co-signing anything, I said. Fletcher blinked. We haven't even. You don't need to show me the plan. The answer is no. Cassidy's face crumpled. Felicity, come on, this is our future. Mom and Dad are behind this. We just need someone to vouch for us. Then find someone who wasn't asked to skip their parents' anniversary dinner 48 hours ago, I said. Silence. Fletcher's smile thinned into something that wasn't a smile at all. You're really going to hold on to that? Cassidy was just being honest. She was, I agreed. And so am I. I pressed the intercom. Marcy, can you call down to security and ask them to send 2 escorts to my office? Cassidy made a sound like she'd been struck. Fletcher stood slowly, and when he stood, the charm was completely gone. What was underneath it was flat and cold and entirely unsurprised, like he'd run this calculation before and already knew what losing looked like. "You're going to regret this," he said. "I won't. Goodbye, Fletcher. Goodbye, Cassidy." I didn't look up as they were walked out. I heard Cassidy sobbing in the hall, Fletcher's voice low and urgent beside her, the elevator doors closing, and then the particular quiet of a floor with nothing left to resolve. My coffee had gone cold. My hands were steady. Then my phone sent an alert from my bank. New credit inquiry detected. A loan application of $217,000 has been submitted in your name and social security number. Co-applicant, Fletcher T. Marsh. He had filed it before they'd even walked in the door. The conversation had never been a request. It was a ratification. I called my private banker, Mr. Okafor, who picked up on the second ring and confirmed the application had been submitted 40 minutes earlier from a residential IP address. He froze my credit within minutes and flagged everything as fraudulent. He asked if I wanted to file a police report. I thought about the text. "You always look kind of exhausted in photos." "Yes," I said, "all of it." By evening, my phone was a blizzard. "Cassidy, I can't believe you threw us out like we were nothing. My mother, your sister is beside herself. What did you say to Fletcher? He's very sensitive." Fletcher himself sent a paragraph about how I was threatened by people with real ambition. I took screenshots of everything and created a folder on my laptop. I titled it Evidence, and I did not reply to a single message. At 9 o'clock that night, my doorbell rang. The security camera showed no one, just a manila envelope sitting on my welcome mat. No postage. My name written on the front in my father's handwriting. I brought it inside, sat at the dining table, and opened it. Inside was a handwritten note on yellow legal paper and a stapled report, 41 pages. The note read, "Felicity, I know you think I'm blind. Maybe I am, most of the time. But from the night Cassidy brought Fletcher home, something felt off to me. The way he talked about money without ever looking like someone who'd actually earned any. 6 months ago, I took some money from my retirement account. Please don't tell your mother. And hired a private investigator named Cosgrove out of Colorado Springs. I got this report last week. I tried to tell your mother. She said I was being paranoid. I tried to talk to Cassidy. She won't hear it. But you're the smartest person I know. You always were, even when I didn't say it. Handle this, Felicity. I don't have the spine for it. I'm sorry I don't. Love, Dad." I set the note down. My eyes went hot, but I didn't cry. I read the report. Fletcher Marsh, 34 years old. Born in Tucson, 3 addresses in 6 years, Phoenix, Albuquerque, Denver. Each city a fresh start after the previous one became untenable. 1 prior marriage, to a woman named Simone in Phoenix, married 4 years ago, divorced 18 months later. The Phoenix section was the report's core. Simone had been a physical therapist with good credit, a condo she'd bought herself, and a stable income. Within 14 months of marrying Fletcher, her 3 credit cards were maxed, combined balance of $92,000, all luxury purchases registered in her name. A home equity line of credit had been drawn against her condo, using documents she testified she had never signed. By the time she realized what had happened, the debt had already touched her credit score. Her savings were cleared out, and Fletcher was already framing it as her financial mismanagement. The district attorney had declined to prosecute due to the difficulty of separating marital finances after the fact. Simone lost her condo. She spent 8 months in credit recovery. Fletcher had walked away clean. The report included her current contact information. She was still in Phoenix, working at a rehabilitation clinic. I picked up my phone. It was 11 o'clock at night. I dialed. She answered on the 3rd ring, careful. "Hello? My name is Felicity. My sister is married to Fletcher Marsh." A long pause, then very quietly, "How bad is it?" "He filed a fraudulent loan application in my name today. $217,000. She exhaled. "He always finds a backup. When the primary runs out, there's always a backup." "I know. I caught it. But I need your help." I hesitated. "I'm flying you to Denver tomorrow if you'll come. I need someone who has been through this and isn't afraid to say so in a room full of people." A pause. "Is it first class?" I almost laughed out loud. "Yes." "What time does the flight leave?" I picked Simone up from Denver International on Sunday morning. She was small and precise, with watchful eyes and the controlled stillness of someone who had learned to trust very carefully. She shook my hand at arrivals and didn't waste time on pleasantries. Over eggs and coffee at a diner near the airport, I spread the PI report between us and she confirmed every page, filling in details the investigator hadn't captured: the gradual isolation from friends, the slow escalation from small financial asks to large ones, the way Fletcher made himself indispensable before he made himself the primary account holder. "He moves faster when he's cornered," she said, wrapping her hands around her mug. "He's going to try to grab whatever he can before the exits close." My credit monitoring app sent an alert as if on cue. Another inquiry, this time through a different regional lender, a business line of credit using what looked like copied documents. The freeze caught it, denied instantly. "My parents' anniversary dinner is tonight," I said. "It's being held in the event space at a commercial building on Larimer Street in Denver." I paused. "I own the building." Simone put her coffee down and looked at me for a moment. "Of course you do." "He doesn't know that. My family doesn't know that." She was quiet for a beat. "When do we go?" I dressed carefully that evening. A charcoal blazer, dark dress, heels I could stand in for 4 hours. I looked like what I was, the person who held the deed to the room where this party was happening. Simone wore gray and brought the Phoenix court documents. I brought a clean manila folder containing the property deed for the Larimer Street building, registered to Ridgeline Holdings, the original lease agreement in my parents' name, the eviction notice my attorney had drafted that afternoon, with a 30-day timeline, and the police report numbers for both fraudulent loan applications. Tabbed, printed, ordered. We arrived at 7. The event space was warm with string lights and the smell of food my parents had catered themselves. 40 people filled the room: aunts, uncles, neighbors from the old house, friends from my parents' church. My parents stood near the center of it looking genuinely happy, my mother in a blue dress she must have bought for the occasion. Cassidy saw me first. The color left her face fast. She was standing near the bar with a champagne flute, Fletcher beside her. His eyes moved from me to Simone, and something in his expression didn't shift so much as it locked. A door closing from the inside. I walked to the main table, set the folder down. My mother said my name like a question. "I need 5 minutes," I said, quietly, evenly. The room had already started to pay attention. "I own this building," I said, not loudly, just clearly enough. "I've owned it for 4 years through a limited liability company called Ridgeline Holdings. I bought it so Mom and Dad wouldn't lose their kitchen when the previous owners sold." I looked at my parents. My mother's hand came up to her mouth. The private investor who wanted to support local small businesses. That was me, the $900 lease, the hot water heater last February, the HVAC the winter before, all me. My father across the room nodded once. He already knew. On Saturday morning, I continued, my sister's husband submitted a fraudulent loan application using my social security number and personal financial records. Documents he accessed through files stored at my parents' home. I opened the folder and placed the police report on the table. "This is the case number. Here is a copy of the fraudulent application." I placed Simone's Phoenix court documents beside it. "And this is the civil record from his prior marriage where he executed the same strategy against another woman and left her with $92,000 in debt and no home." The room had the quality of silence that happens when a large group of people is simultaneously revising what they think they know. Simone stepped forward. "My name is Simone. I was married to Fletcher for 18 months in Phoenix. What's in that report is accurate. He cleared my savings, drew a line of credit against my home without my knowledge, and left before the divorce finalized." She looked at Cassidy directly, her voice even. "I'm sorry. I know this isn't what tonight was supposed to be." Cassidy was crying. She wasn't looking at me. She was looking at Fletcher. Fletcher looked like a man who had run out of performance. His face had gone flat and still. He picked his keys up from the table behind him. My Uncle Harold, my mother's brother, a large, quiet man who had said very little at family gatherings in my memory, stepped between Fletcher and the door. He didn't touch him. He just stood there. "You'll stay," he said. Fletcher stayed. I had called the police from the parking lot before I walked in. When they arrived, Fletcher left in the back of a patrol car without making a scene. Men like him rarely do when the audience has turned. The fallout was exhausting in the way things are when they've been building for a long time. Fletcher was charged with wire fraud and identity theft. The Phoenix case had been documented even though it never went to prosecution, and that pattern mattered. His attorney called about a plea arrangement within 2 weeks. I didn't make it easy for them, and I didn't drop the charges. Cassidy called me every day for the first 2 weeks. I answered twice. The second time, she said, "You could have told me privately. You didn't have to do it in front of everyone. I thought about the text message. You always look kind of exhausted in photos." "You're right that I could have," I said. "But you wouldn't have believed me without witnesses. You would have believed him." She didn't answer that. She knew it was true. My mother left a voicemail that started as an accusation and ended as something I hadn't expected. The last 30 seconds. "But your father told me what he found. He told me what Fletcher was actually doing with that loan application." A pause. I didn't know about the building either. Another pause. Longer. "I didn't know a lot of things, Felicity." She didn't apologize in so many words. But I heard something in that stretch of silence that I had been waiting for without fully knowing I was waiting for it. I saved the voicemail. My father called on a Thursday evening. He didn't have a speech prepared. He asked if I was doing okay. I told him yes. He said, "You've always been the one who actually shows up." I said, "I know, Dad," he said. "I should have said it sooner." I said, "Yeah, you should have." We were quiet for a moment. "I'm going to hang up now," I said, "but you can call me again." He called again the following Sunday. That was a start. I kept the building on Larimer Street. My parents still run their catering business out of the commercial kitchen. I raised the lease to $1,200 a month, still well below market rate. And I told them the truth about who Ridgeline Holdings is. My mother sat across from me at her kitchen table and said, "How long?" 4 years, I told her. She shook her head slowly and looked at her hands and didn't say anything else for a long time. That silence was its own kind of answer. Cassidy filed for divorce. She's staying with my parents while she figures out what her life looks like when she's the one building it, instead of someone else building it around her. I don't know what she and I are going to be to each other yet. I think we're both still deciding. As for me, I'm on my apartment balcony on a Sunday morning with a cup of coffee that is still hot, looking at the Front Range in the distance, listening to the particular quiet of a life no longer organized around managing everyone else's Russians. There is no group chat notification, no bank alert, no voicemail asking me to apologize for something I didn't do. David came over last night with takeout from a Thai place near his apartment. He sat across from me at my kitchen table and asked about a structural challenge I was working through on the low dom project. Not to be polite, but because he actually wanted to understand it. He asked follow-up questions. He didn't glance at his phone. He told me my explanation made it click for him, and he meant it. It's a small thing, but it's what it looks like when someone shows up for the ribbon and not just the checkbook. If you're the one in your family who always sets the table, always fixes the problem, always shows up quietly while someone else gets the heart emoji, I want you to hear this. You are not a utility. You are not the backup plan activated when the real options run out. The people who love you will be there when you hold up the certificate. They will be there when there's nothing in it for them. And the ones who only show up when there's a loan to co-sign. Let them find their own way home. Because the quiet you build on the other side of that decision is the most solid structure you will ever stand in.